This episode is brought to you by Palmolive. Family time isn't just the big moments, it's weeknight dinners. Sitting around the table, everyone talking all at once. So when the plates are empty and the sink is full, use Palmolive Ultra. Palmolive's most powerful formula removes up to 99.9% of grease, leaving your dishes sparkling clean. And the new convenient pump makes cleaning even easier, so you can spend less time tackling dishes and more time together. Shop now at palmolive.com.
This episode is brought to you by Redfin. You're listening to a podcast, which means you're probably multitasking. Maybe even scrolling home listings on Redfin, saving homes without expecting to get them. But Redfin isn't just built for endless browsing. It's built to help you find and own a home. With agents who close twice as many deals, when you find the one, you've got a real shot at getting it. Get started at redfin.com. Own the dream.
This episode is brought to you by State Farm. You know those friends who support your preference for podcasts over music on road trips? That's the energy State Farm brings to insurance. With over 19,000 local agents, they help you find the coverage that fits your needs, so you can spend less time worrying about insurance and more time enjoying the ride. Download the State Farm app or go online at statefarm.com. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Morning decisions. How about a creamy mocha frappuccino drink? Or sweet vanilla? Smooth caramel maybe? Or a white chocolate mocha? Whichever you choose, delicious coffee awaits. Find Starbucks Frappuccino drinks wherever you buy your groceries.
Amazon presents Jeff versus Taco Truck Salsa. Whether it's Verde, Roja, or the orange one. For Jeff, trying any salsa is like playing Russian roulette with a flamethrower. Luckily, Jeff saved with Amazon and stocked up on antacids, ginger tea, and milk. Habanero? More like habanero, yes. Save the everyday with Amazon.
All you heroes, hawks, crows, rooks, and inquisitors. Welcome to the Dragon Age Lorecast, where we unpack, discuss, and theorize about all the lore behind the Dragon Age series.
We are so excited to bring you this podcast. Every episode will be covering a different topic in the Dragon Age universe, from character deep dives to exalted marches and elven gods. We'll cover it all.
There will be spoilers. And always remember, swooping is bad.
Hello and welcome to the Dragon Age Lorecast, where we talk about Dragon Age and its lore. I'm one of your hosts, Austin, also known as Teacup, and I'm here with my other host.
That's me, Shelby or She-Cup.
Yes, you are, and we're here to talk about more rulers. And today we're talking about a family, probably like the family of Orlais.
Yeah, like if you know anything about Orlesian history, you know about the Drakon family, and that's who we're talking about today. You ready for some fun facts?
I'm always ready for fun facts.
All right. Well, okay. Let me just put it out here. While we know that the Drakons are, the founding imperial dynasty of Orlais, they were, perhaps unsurprisingly, originally a noble family from, you guessed it, Tevinter.
With a name like Drakon, it kind of feels like...
It sounds just like dragon. So I'm like, yeah, okay, this makes sense. I get it. But it does feel a little bit like, oh, elves are behind everything religious. Tevinter's behind everything political situation.
Which, to be fair, I know I criticized that a lot. Both were very, very, very widespread empires across the realm. That'd be like saying, like, oh my gosh, so many of the European countries take inspiration from Greek and Roman stuff.
This is fair. All right, so my second fun fact is that you can actually find the bow of the Golden Sun in Dragon Age Origins or in Dragon Age Origins Awakening, which was given as a gift from Emperor Drakon I to his Empress.
Oh, so sweet. Everyone just wanted a... Who wants weapon? What a great gift.
Okay, we will get into it. I think it does make sense for her. So, at the end of the Ancient Age, the head of the Drakon family was Lord Vandarin Drakon. They were a Tevinter noble family in steep decline. And one of the reasons for this decline was because of the youngest son. His name was Septimus Drakon. And he had no magical ability whatsoever, which, as you know, listeners, is anathema in Tevinter.
Right. I just also want to pause here of like, none of these names are Orlesian. Like, when you think about Gaspard, Celine, Brianna, even, like.
We will get there.
Yes.
We are in the Tevinter part of their history. So, Septimus Drakon was wed off to a woman named Castana. Does that sound a little bit more Orlesian for your sensibilities?
Yes.
And she was a Syrian woman who was the daughter of a very powerful chieftain. Pretty much everyone the Drakons knew saw this match as Lord Vandarin simply trying to dispose of an unwanted and disappointing son. And yet, Septimus succeeded in what would soon be a young Orlais. He may not have been a mage, but he did learn a lot of life lessons growing up in Tevinter. Number one, he shared his expertise regarding nobility, climbing the ladder of social influence and power with his new wife. This helped her gain notoriety, which would eventually lead to her being named Queen of the Syrian in -36 Ancient. Septimus and Castana would then have a son named Kordillus, who would go on to become the first Orlesian ruler and uniter of the empire. So let's get into Kordillus I and the Drakons that will follow his example or not.
Surprise. They won't.
Some of them will. Some of them won't. So, we've discussed a lot of Emperor Drakon I's contributions and accomplishments in various episodes of this podcast. From the Second Blight episode to the original Orlais episode and more, there's a lot to cover. We've talked about his hand in the First Inquisition, the Navarran Accords, the founding of the Templars, the Circles of Magi, and the Seekers. So we are going to give a super broad overview, and since we've discussed the politics a lot, we're going to be focusing on what we know of his personal life. And I want to start with his religious beliefs, which I think are like the most personal thing to dive into. So when Kordillus was a young child, Andraste appeared to him in a dream, he claimed, and she tasked him with the redemption of the world. And the way that he would do this was to spread the chant of light. And so Kordillus felt that that was his calling in life and his destiny. Worship of the Maker at this point in time was not a cohesive, organized religion, and it certainly was not the dominant religion of what would soon be Orlais. Many clans and tribes had their own beliefs about the Maker and Andraste, with a lot of different rituals, patterns, and holidays. So the worship of Andraste was present, and you could probably even say a majority belief, but it was splintered. It was fractured. They did not have a cohesive theology. And so, at the young age of 16, Kordillus began to unify the tribes and clarify their religious expressions. One of his very first attempts to do so was on the battlefield. The Daughters of Song were a peaceful faction that did have some controversial beliefs, namely that they would honor Andraste's union with the Maker by enjoying a lot of wine, sex, and parties. Drakon disagreed with this, and so he sacked their village and slaughtered them when they refused to arm themselves and fight back.
official Chantry belief states that like the quote unquote union of Andraste and the Maker is like symbolic. Like it's not actually physical.
Well, I wouldn't say that it's symbolic. I would say that it really happens, kind of like transubstantiation, right? Like in Christianity, like her and the Maker were united, but not in a physical, bodily way, in a mental, spiritual way.
Yes. I think, okay. Also, like, bro, I have a lot of respect for Kordillus I. Just because I think that he does do a lot of good things. But you can't just let the sex cult be a sex cult. Like, you had to slaughter
just
them.
declare them heretical and be on your way.
Yeah, like, bro.
Why did you have to kill people that weren't fighting back? Like, okay, crazy.
Anyway,
so let's talk about his love life. So Kordillus courted a woman named Arria Montellaris, who was the daughter of Lord Montellaris of Valchevin. All 6 of the Lord's daughters were viewed as unmarriageable for various reasons that we are not privileged to. Arria was the captain of her father's archers and led the defenses for their castle when she met young Kordillus. According to the legends, she was not the fairest, nor the most elegant, nor the most charming of her sisters. But when Kordillus saw her shoot the wings off a bumblebee from 100 paces away, he instantly fell in love. So the gift of the bow makes sense after all.
Okay, yes, I'll acknowledge that. I'm just trying to think of the logistics of even if you could shoot the wings off a bumblebee with an arrow. I don't think it's possible. I think you just you disintegrate the bumblebee. The arrowhead's not small enough.
It's a legend. It's a story. It's been exaggerated.
Okay. Sorry.
So, regardless of the logistics of the bumblebee situation, the feeling was mutual, and they would eventually get married. On their wedding day, Kordillus gave her a golden bow, as we mentioned in the fun facts, and together they went on to conquer much of what is now Ferelden and Navarra, as well as stamping out the remaining beliefs in the old gods, the Alamari and Syrian gods, and continuing to codify the doctrines and dogma of the Chantry.
So this is why Orlais is like so hell-bent on conquering Ferelden, is because
they always have been.
Yeah, because they did once. And so because Drakon did it, they consider it their land.
Right, it's kind of like, well, this was how we were founded, and Ferelden was like part of us, and so we won't be back to our great status until Ferelden is part of us once more.
Okay.
You clearly disagree.
I just have issues with Orlais.
I mean, me too. I'm just trying to present the information.
Yeah, I know. That's all. Okay. Yeah. I'm letting my hate of France cloud my judgment.
Okay, well, let's tamp that down a little bit. Try to pull out the objective card from your back pocket, please.
I'm working on it.
All right. Well, let's talk about the formation of the Chantry, specifically the institution. So in -15 ancient, which is very close to, 1-1 divine, Kordillus began the construction of a temple dedicated to the Maker. He decided that he was going to build it on top of an ancient Syrian fortress and declared that the completion of this grand temple would be the ultimate mark of his bringing Andraste to the world. Which I want to pause here and say, like, you can see, I don't want to say the delusions of grandeur, because it's not really a delusion. Like, he truly is grand. Like, he is the emperor of this country, but he's also creating it, right? And so, like, you can see where his mind is at. He thinks that he is bringing Andraste to the world. Not that Andraste is already there, because she was. The religious beliefs of her had been around for years and years and years, hundreds of years. It just was a disparate collection of varying theologies, but he wanted to make it into one thing. And that is his version of bringing Andraste to the world.
Yeah, I think this is an important moment because I think this is where it kind of goes south, because he is so adamant, and like his dream of Andraste telling him to redeem the world explains the actions of his descendants a lot, particularly Kordillus II, and some things that he does,
and some other ones.
Because I'm just thinking about some of the first Exalted Marches, and like how this vision, and I would argue perversion of this vision, is fueling that.
Yeah, you can very, very easily see how, and it is a jump, but you can see how you get from this vision of Andraste telling him to bring her worship to the world to, okay, that means we have to eradicate every people group that does not solely worship Andraste.
And like, I think this core belief is at the point of like, Tevinter and Orlais are great foils of each other, because they both believe in the sense of like, our way of life is the best, and we need to bring that way of life to all of Thedas. And really, the only things that are standing in their way of doing that are each other.
And themselves.
Right.
Yeah, it is a great paradox. But, I mean, Kordillus, at the end of the day, he is successful. Like, you cannot argue that he is unsuccessful. He is. He makes mistakes, sure, but he is extremely successful. And in -3 Ancient, the Grand Temple is finished and dedicated to the Maker. He declares the Chantry as the established and official religion of the Orlesian Empire. And he created the holy office of the Divine. After lengthy elections, Olessa of Montsimard was proclaimed the first divine 3 years later, naming herself Justinia I. And this is the beginning of the Chantry calendar, 1-1 divine.
And just so I understand, this is the like main Chantry that is in Valroyo.
Yes.
Until
now.
It probably was destroyed in Veilguard, but
sure, whatever.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, cool. I just wanted to make, because I was thinking about the White Spire or White Tower or whatever it is, but that is a circle.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah, because in the book, Asunder, they're in the White Spire when all of the stuff happens at the circle, and they go to, I think it's the Grand Temple, when they discuss with the Divine, when they have like the votes and all that.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So, when the second blight breaks out just a few years later in 1-5, Drakon rallies everyone who is able-bodied, including mages. His choice to do everything he could to end the blight arguably helped build the institution and spread the beliefs of the Chantry more than anything else that he does in his entire life.
Yes, and like, I am sure that the Grey Wardens did their part, and obviously one of them did their part, otherwise this blight would have taken on the world. It is so much easier because of what Drakon does in the years before. Him unifying all of these tribes into one cohesive force and one rallying point means that they can rally an army to the blight, to everyone, very, very quickly, and minimize the damage. I'm going to say minimize because it's still a blight, and so it still ravages the world.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think the thing that I think is the most significant is that he doesn't just limit it to Orlais. He goes after everybody that he could possibly unite. The Wardens, Tevinter, people that, other tribes around that hated him, like mages. He brings elves, everyone into the fold to fight the blight, which we know later leaders would not do in a short-sighted move.
Yes. And I think that for good or for ill, the elf's decision to not participate in this second blight is ultimately the catalyst that his son will use for the Exalted March.
It is their downfall, as we've said on the podcast before, for sure. All right, well, let's talk about Kordillus I's death and legacy. So he dies of old age in 145 Divine, and his son succeeds him. At this point in time, the Orlesian Empire was the most powerful nation in Thedas, rivaling even that of Old Teventer. He was also declared anointed by the Chantry, which is the highest rank that a non-clergy member can obtain. Many people still today revere him as highly as Andraste.
I mean, it's a big deal because, like,
it's basically him being sainted.
Yes. And it is a point of Andraste creates, or not creates, but like embodies that which they worship. Drakon turns it into the Chantry. Andraste founds Andrastianism. Drakon founds the Chantry.
Mm-hmm. That's a perfectly succinct way of putting it. That is correct. 100%.
He is a force to be reckoned with. He does not do everything correctly. He does not make the best choices, but he is arguably one of the better leaders of all of the leaders of Thedas because he's decisive and he puts the safety of the world above any other political game.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that is what, like, really makes it, is he makes a decision and he says, no, this is the decision. You can get behind it or not.
Mm-hmm.
And he'll say, but when it matters, I'll help you out. And he means it.
He does. Which is why I think what happens to his tomb is very sad. In the Glory Age, 214, his tomb was plundered in Val Royeaux by elven armies as they sacked the city. His armor was even displayed as a trophy in Halam Shiral. They were not found, however, when Halam Shiral fell, only reappearing centuries later.
Yeah, I think that I get where the elves are coming from. And I think that in a lot of ways they are justified in their hatred.
But they make really bad political decisions.
They do. And when you go after and attack someone like Drakon and Orlais, it's not, this isn't even the same, but it's like going into America, going to George Washington's tomb and digging up his body and taking it. Like, you're effectively gonna piss off
everyone,
every American, and now we're all gonna be pissed off at you.
Yeah.
And the most dangerous thing in the world is a united country against a singular foe.
It's true. It's true. Yeah, like you have gone and erased any goodwill that the country would have had toward you.
Right. And people who might have been on the lines of like, hey, like, this isn't good. Like, maybe we should stop this. Like, you've now pissed them off and alienated them in that way.
Yep. Well, I think this is a good place for our mid-break.
Yeah. All right. So let's go to that middle break. Wow. Why'd I call it the middle break? Jeez, what's freaking wrong with me?
Half Man, the new HBO original limited series from Baby Reindeer creator Richard Gadd, examines the tumultuous relationship between two estranged brothers, tracking the highs and lows of the pair over the course of 40 years. Starring Emmy Award winner Richard Gadd and BAFTA Award winner Jamie Bell. Half Man premieres April 23rd on HBO Max.
If you've got spring fever, Lowe's has the cure. During SpringFest, make your landscape stand out with 3 free bags of Miracle-Gro 3/4 cubic foot garden soil when you buy 3. Plus, get up to 40% off select major appliances to keep clothes, food, and dishes fresh all season long. Our best lineup is here at Lowe's. Valid through 4/22 while supplies last. Selection varies by location. See Lowe's.com for details. Soil offer excludes Alaska and Hawaii.
I've got this nefarious plan to go around to each of them and secretly tell them all the nasty things you said. That way they'll mutiny and I shall become the group leader.
You know, we have more comfortable rooms and basically infinite space, so why,
Why does the trained assassin prefer a quiet, unassuming spot with good choke points?
Guess you just answered that question.
Besides, I'm closer to the coffee.
Just wondering if the feathered pauldrons are an essential part of the moody rebel mage persona.
What are you talking about?
I'm working on an epic poem about a hopelessly romantic apostate, waging an epic struggle against forces he can't possibly defeat.
What do you mean, can't possibly defeat?
Well, it's not a good story unless the hero dies.
All right, so this is the time where we talk about things going on with the podcast, and we talk. Thank you to our patrons. Thank you to our first patrons, Genesis and Lisa M. Also, we have a new patron, Tori H. Welcome back, new returning patron. Thank you so much to all our patrons. If you'd like to support us on Patreon, you can join our Patreon for as little as $5 a month. Another great way to support us is to leave us ratings and reviews. If you leave them on Apple or Spotify with some kind words and 5 stars, we'll read out your review on a future episode of the show. And today I have a comment on the expulsion of the Grey Wardens from Ferelden episode. This comes from Numb and says, listening so I have a good lore base for the campaign I'm GMing this week. Awesome podcast. Thank you so much, Numb. I hope your campaign went well and you had a lot of fun. Last thing, come hang out with us on Discord where we talk about Dragon Age and all the fun things that surround it and other games and other shows that we have going on. So come hang out with us. It's the best place on the internet. And with that, I think we can get back into it.
All right, let's do it.
You know you need fiber for a healthy gut, but do you actually know how to get it? Quaker's been serving up fiber since 1877, with over 100 great-tasting, good source of fiber options to choose from. Whether you like old-fashioned oats, instant oatmeal, granola, or oatmeal squares, Quaker makes it delicious. So good. Get your fiber with Quaker. Shop Quaker's good source of fiber products at a store near you.
K-pop Demon Hunters, Haja Boys Breakfast Meal and Huntrix Meal have just dropped at McDonald's. They're calling this a battle for the fans. What do you say to that, Rumi?
It's not a battle. So glad the Saja Boys could take breakfast and give our meal the rest of the day.
It is an honor to share.
No, it's our honor.
It is our larger honor.
No, really. Stop.
You can really feel the respect in this battle. Pick a meal to pick a side.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. At participating McDonald's while supplies last.
You tell yourself, no one wants your college-era band tees. But on Depop, people are searching for exactly what you've got. You once paid a small fortune for them at merch stands. Now, a teenager who calls them vintage will offer that same small fortune back. Sell them easily on Depop. Just snap a few photos and we'll take care of the rest. Who knew your questionable music taste would be a money-making machine? Your style can make you cash. Start selling on Depop, where taste recognizes taste.
My people have heard legends of the Grey Warden's strength and skill, though I suppose not every legend is true.
That's really helpful. What are you, the elven god of sarcasm?
Lies, treachery, and rebellion, depending upon the story. And how could I help? I do not have my ritual dagger. I cannot access my network of mirrors to travel from the lighthouse to anywhere in the world. All I can offer is what I know.
Helpful advice from the elven god of, and I am quoting you here, lies, treachery, and rebellion.
Depending on the story.
You fear barbarians will swoop down upon you.
Yes, swooping is bad.
All right, so we've talked about Kordillus I. Let's get into his son, Kordillus II. So Kordillus II obviously becomes emperor when his father dies in 145. However, unlike his father, he did precious little that left any form of a legacy. He did not help strengthen anyone's military positions in the Second Blight. And so when the Blight did finally end, many villages and towns had been completely wiped out. And he also didn't possess even a pinky's worth of his father's political savvy. He steadily lost Orlesian territories that his father had conquered. 20 years into his reign, the Anderfels broke away. This then opens the door for a lot of other areas to either fully break off from the Empire or at least try it.
Yeah, the Dragon family is going to be really similar to the Kennedy family in the Americas, where like the ones that are good and great are amazing. The ones that are not
are really not.
There's an old Family Guy jokes where it's like, I'm gonna feel like a Kennedy, not the irresponsible drunk ones, not the socially responsible dead ones.
Yeah. Yeah, I do think Kordillus II is even worse than that. Because I actually think, despite his terrible, terrible leadership, the Chantry did continue to readily spread, which is like the one redeeming factor of his reign. Though this is really not anything that he did. It's more of a result of the Grey Warden's conversion to the Chantry than the actions of Kordillus II.
Right. Very much so. I think that like at this point there's very little that the power seat of the Emperor needs to do to spread the Chantry, because the Chantry now has its own leader who can focus on that spread.
Yeah, but they still need like the resources of Orlais.
Right, exactly. But like Kordillus II might be an complete political idiot, but he's not a political idiot to make an enemy of the Chantry.
True, that's true. And I will say, while he may not have had any of the political savvy that his father had, he still had to have had some, because he remained in power well into his old age and reigned for over 60 years. You don't stay on an empire's throne for 6 decades without being able to hold on to it.
Yeah. Well, I also wonder, like, I think that's probably a fair statement, but also how much of it is like, are we really going to unseat Kordillus I's son? Like, is that really what we're going to do?
Very fair, but also I think at the same time, this is the second one. There's not this long history of tradition and all this stuff that upending this dynasty would cause.
And we don't have the Council of Heralds.
True.
To basically say, no, this is the right emperor, which is like such an ingenious idea. I'm always impressed by the Council of Heralds.
It's like the one Orlesian thing you like.
Yeah, I'm just like, oh, you have this body that is their sole purpose of existence is to just say, no, this is the clear line of succession.
Okay.
Anyway, yeah, I think that it's probably twofold of a lot of people leave him in power out of respect for his father, and that like he has powerful friends.
Yeah. Yeah, it can be both and. The last thing I want to say about Kordillus II is that one of his very last acts as emperor before he died was to aid divine Renata I in the destruction of the Dales during the Exalted March, in spite of his father's close friendship with the Elven Inquisitor Ameridan.
Right, and like if you need a reminder quick of history point here, the Dales is land that is gifted to the Elven people by Isarath, right?
I can't remember who gifts it, but it is a separate country. It is not part of Orlais.
Yes, and like
it is the Elven Empire at this point.
Mm-hmm. And it is gifted in the aftermath of the Andraste Rebellion and like in the time of its founding of Orlais.
It may have even been Mafarath or Andraste.
Right. But like it is something that is given to them for their service in the Andrastan Rebellion.
Yes.
This is a big move to go and have the Exalted March on them in a way that I think pisses on the legacy of your forebears.
And of your father specifically. I think it would have been anathema to him.
Well, one of his best friends was Inquisitor Emeritus.
Right, and if he wanted that land, then he would have taken it.
But I think that this is the point of like, I think the difference between the Kordillus is that his father is Andrastianism because he believes, and Kordillus II is Andrastian because everyone is Andrastian.
Yeah, that's a fair discrepancy. Okay, any other thoughts about Kordillus II?
No, that's all. Other than like, he's the reason that the elves have so much. Well, there's lots of reasons that the elves have a lot of trouble, but like,
this really kicks it off, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
We probably wouldn't have alienages if this Exalted March hadn't happened. we probably wouldn't have like Dalish tribes.
Yeah, well, yes and no. I mean, it's this and their refusal to help with the blight. Those are the two big factors. But the next Draken we have is Empress Genevieve Drakon I. She succeeded Kordillus II and was the first empress of Orlais. We know very little about her reign, but what we do know is supremely influential. She was responsible for creating several of the practices and traditions, like the wearing of masks of the court, many of which are still in use today. Most notable, however, is what was known as the Empress's Arm. She created a household guard for herself, and those who were chosen to be a part of it were given a gift fit for a prince, an enchanted blade from Tevinter. And so when rivals overstepped their bounds, Genevieve was quick to make them see the point of said blade. This group, known as the Empress's Arm, would become the foundations of the Chevalier.
It's so interesting that it starts out as like the Chevaliers becoming guards for the emperor, or the seat of the
ruler.
empire, the ruler, and like that they basically evolve into this elite
military force. But it makes the rule of nobles only make a little bit more sense.
Yes, it does. It very much does. I do want to go back a little bit, because I do want to say, like, there's just another thing with the Dales is that, like, had Inquisitor Ameridan been around for the kickoff of the Second Blight, or, like, really establishing that fight there, I think that the elves probably would have joined. I think he might have pulled enough influence to be like, no, like,
we need to help.
We're in this together. Like, we need to go help.
I agree. I think it would have been totally different if he had been in Orlais when everything started to go down. But as we know from Jaws of Hacken, that's not what happens.
No, it is not.
So let's talk about the last Draken, which is Emperor Xavier Drakon. And we've got a time jump here, and we're not really sure. There's people in between, but we don't know their names. Centuries after Genevieve dies, Xavier Drakon ruled Orlais. Like I said, we know nothing of the Drakons who come before. But what we do know of the last Drakon emperor is that he was known as a usurper. We're not really sure of the timing, other than that he ruled during the Exalted Age. During this time, a civil war broke out in Orlais specifically against his rule. The war was led by Alphonse Valmont I, who defeated Xavier in one-on-one combat. This is how the famous Orlesian legend of the lion slaying the dragon came to be. Alphonse was the lion and Xavier was the dragon. And as you know, you should recognize the last name Valmont, as that is currently who rules the throne of Orlais, which we'll get into on the next few episodes.
It's really, really interesting. Because if you remind me of history, Exalted Age is when all the Exalted marches against Tevinter happen.
I think it's the 5th Age, but don't quote me on that.
Right. But I think that's when they have the Exalted marches against Tevinter.
Yeah.
Which, like, was Xavier Drakon actually a usurper? Or was he called a usurper because his family is Tevinter in origin?
I don't know if they remember that. I mean, it's been generations, I don't know.
It has, but I just wonder sometimes about the timing of all of that.
Yeah.
And, like, it's kind of sad, really. Mm-hmm. And, like, the, like, old, like, parable and, like, age wisdom of, like, reaping what you sow. And, like, the Valmont family comes into power by civil war and battle and things, and they're forever fraught with war and contested successions and all kinds of things.
Yeah, and
like
the Orlesian people constantly look back to the era of the Drakons as like the golden age for Orlais, not the age of the Valmonts.
Mm-hmm. And like the Valmont emperors and empresses there have not been there has not been an emperor or empress, I feel like, in them that has been as universally liked as some members of the Drakon family.
As Kordillus, definitely not. I do think there are some in the middle years of the Valmont dynasty that come close, that stack up there. Because, I mean, think about Judaical. There's Judaical's crossing in the Big Bridge. And there are people that talk about, like, oh, we need to get back to that era of Orlais. So I think there are people that do compare, but they're not on the level of Kordillus I, for sure.
No. And, like, so much of, like, what you consider so uniquely Orlesians comes from the Drakon line.
Yeah.
The wearing of the masks, the chevaliers, like the chantry, all of these things are there because of the Drakon emperors.
Yeah, not the Valmonts. Yeah, it is interesting. Which makes me feel a little bit bad for Gaspard, who, you know, his whole thing is that, well, I was the oldest of all the grandchildren of the emperor before the one who died, who left no heirs. So he should have been made emperor. He's the oldest. I agree with that. And his whole argument is the only reason Gaspard wasn't made emperor is because he didn't have the right last name of Valmont. I get it. I get the frustration.
I think that, especially after reading Masked Empire and really diving into everything that happens, I still think that even a solo Gaspard rule is better than a Selene rule.
Ugh, I don't know. Better for who?
I guess that's true.
We will discuss this, I think, at length when we talk about Gaspard's character deep dive.
All right.
So, any last thoughts about the Drakons before we move on to our side character?
No, I just is a common like fantasy thing of you have this like powerful family, and I mean really like the Drakons are akin to the Therans. Like when you look at it, like
yeah,
and like really the Valmont is really a more common in line because people are like, oh, you have to be a Valmont to be emperor, empress, and then like.
I actually think the Theran and Drakon comparison is more apt because Kordillus and Calenhad are the ones that found the countries, really.
That is true. Right. But we'll save that for
Calenhad's episode.
For Calenhad and the Theran line rulers.
Yes. All right, well, let's get into our side character today. I think all of our side characters on these Orlesian episodes are going to be divines. Today's side character is Divine Rosamond, who was known as Lilette Montbelliard before she became the Divine, and she ruled from 516 to 571 Exalted. Divine Rosamond was born into a wealthy, noble Orlesian family and was one of many granddaughters of Queen Asha of Antiva. She was groomed from birth, essentially to be divine and succeed Divine Hortensia II. She did just that and became the youngest divine in history.
I want to pause here and just say that the divine names are so much better than the Pope names.
So true. Oh my God, true.
They just roll off the tongue and they sound so unique and fun and boring. And then like
Gregory, Benedict, boring.
Innocent.
Yes.
Pious.
All right, so in 565 Exalted, which is really at the end of her reign, she granted the status of anointed, which, as we discussed earlier, is basically making somebody into a saint, to a person named Clotilde of Crecy, a warrior renowned for defending the innocent. Clotilde had also been protesting taxes on the poor that had been set up by the Baron of Rossfort. She was arrested for this protest, but the divine ordered her released before she could be executed. Somebody tell Sarah this story, please, I beg. Records also describe the divine as a radiant beauty. She was actually featured in quite a large number of pieces of erotic art and literature, which were like topping the charts in Orlais. The Knights Divine, her personal guard, took steps to rid the nation of these heretical and sinful materials, of course. However, allegedly, Rosamond was always unaware that her image was used in this manner. Allegedly.
She knew.
Yeah, of course she knew.
She probably encouraged it.
She probably did, especially if she was like this beautiful young woman. Oh, come on.
And like, I've always been unclear, and I think that Dragon Age itself has been uncleared. Clergy in the Chantry do not take vows of celibacy.
No, they don't. And most of them are single, I think. But Cassandra herself, if you're in a romance with Cassandra and she's becoming divine, she says, I think it's quote, something to the effect of, it would be unconventional, sure, for us to be together. Not illegal, not completely a new thing. Unconventional. To me, that says, yes, it's happened in the past. Not very common.
Right. And Liliana says something similar, like when you romance her in Origins of like, no, we don't have vows of celibacy or anything like that. Like,
yeah.
Some sisters go that far, but it is not a requirement.
Right. Exactly.
Because, let's be honest, Andraste was not celibate.
Exactly. Although the Chantry would have you believe that she was.
Okay, even if Mathras's children are his by another marriage.
They have 2 daughters.
They have 2 daughters, allegedly.
No, they have 2 daughters. The historical record has been erased.
I guess that's true. They have 2 daughters, and there's a really strong possibility she was sleeping with Shartan.
You don't like that theory.
I don't, but I do think that there is evidence for it.
Fair. You're just being generous to the religious narrative.
I am.
All right. So the last thing I have about Divine Rosamond is that she died after serving the Chantry for over 5 decades, and her legacy remains that she was the kindest and most compassionate divine to ever rule. Perhaps fittingly, no other divine has ever used the name.
The kindest and most compassionate divine to ever rule, who ruled during the Exalted Age. The Exalted Age.
Is it not kind to kind of try to destroy the people that want to see you destroyed?
Sure. You know what? I will say this. Tevinter had it coming.
Yes, I agree. And also, I mean, I think that there are, you know, like when we look at our politics, like the way that rulers behave domestically versus foreign policy can be very different. They can be a great domestic leader and a really terrible foreign leader.
Or they could be bad at both.
Or they can be great at foreign policy and bad at domestic policy. Or they can be great at both. Have we ever had that? I don't know. But anyway, so that's Divine Rosamond and the Drakons. Any final thoughts?
I really am excited for these divine character deep dives just because, listen, I know what fandom I'm a part of, and I know that I sit in a community of elf simps. But I am a Chantry boy, and I find the Chantry so very fascinating, and I love learning about all the divines and their leaders, and so I'm really excited about that. I really like this little kind of history footnote almost a little bit that like she's the kindest and most compassionate, because I think it's an important thing of like, no, there are good people that exist within the Chantry.
Yes. They might be few and far between, but there are some.
And they can rise to power.
Yes, there are some.
That's my thoughts on her.
Well, that's such a happy and positive place to end it. I think we should just stop right here.
All right. Okay. Well, thank you so much for bringing this research. This was very, very interesting. We'll continue with our Orlesian rulers, I'm going to assume, because there is a long list that we're going to have to do for the Valmont Emperor and Empresses.
We're going to have 2 Valmont episodes.
Yes. So, which will obviously end with Selene, I would assume.
Yes.
Selene, the War of the Lions.
Yes, which, and to be fair, I don't think we're going to spend that much time on Selene because we've done so in so many other episodes.
I mean, Masked Empire is kind of a Selene character deep dive.
Yeah, true.
So there is that. So yeah, I'm really excited about that. Thank you so much for bringing that in. And thank you all for listening to the Dragon Age Lorecast. We will see you next time. Thanks for listening to the Dragon Age Lorecast. If you have any lore questions, topics to cover, or side character suggestions, join the Cups Podcasting and More Discord server. It's the best place on the internet.
You can also support the podcast financially and ensure its continuation by joining our Patreon at patreon.com/DALorecast. If you enjoyed the show or learned something new today, please subscribe, leave us a review, rating, or comment, or join our Patreon.
The Dragon Age Lorecast is part of the Robots Radio Podcasting Network. If you enjoyed our intro or outro music, give a big shout out to Pipeman Studios. Until next time, look to the sky. The dawn will come.
When a wasteland detective and a vault girl cross paths, no criminal is safe.
You're both under arrest.
Don't move a muscle if you know what's good for you.
Based in Bethesda's Fallout series, follow Walter and Bunny as they traverse the Texas Commonwealth and New Vegas, busting big crime rings.
We'll need all we can to expand into Vegas territory.
And surviving anything the wasteland can throw at them.
It's him! It's the Mothman!
Featuring a series of nail-biting narratives and guest stars from across the Fallout community. It's anybody's guess what thrilling case is up next.
War never changes, does it, Bunny?
No, it certainly does not.
True Vault Escapades, a Fallout audio drama. Available anywhere you get podcasts.